And to think that I saw it on Mulberry Street. Originally published in 1937. Dr. Seuss's first book. When I leave home to walk to school, Dad always says to me, "Marco, keep your eyelids up and see what you can see." But when I tell him where I've been and what I think I've seen, he looks at me and sternly says, "Your eyesight's much too keen. Stop telling such outlandish tales. Stop turning minnows into whales." Now what can I say when I get home today? All the long way to school and all the way back. I've looked and I've looked and I've kept careful track. But all that I've noticed, except my own feet, was a horse and a wagon on Mulberry Street. That's nothing to tell of. That won't do, of course. Just a broken down wagon that's drawn by a horse. That can't be my story. That's only a start. I'll say that a zebra was pulling that cart. And that is a story that no one can beat when I say that I saw it on Mulberry Street. Yes, the zebra is fine. But I think it's a shame, such a marvellous beast with a cart that's so tame. The story would really be better to hear if the driver I saw were a charioteer. A gold and blue chariot's something to meet, rumbling like thunder down Mulberry Street. No, it won't do at all. A zebra is too small. A reindeer is better. He's fast and he's fleet, and he'll look mighty smart on old Mulberry Street. Hold on a minute. There's something wrong. A reindeer hates the way it feels to pull a thing that runs on wheels. He'll be much happier instead if he could pull a fancy sled. A reindeer and sleigh. Say, anyone could think of that. Jack or Fred or Joe or Nat. Say, even Jane could think of that. But it isn't too late to make one little change. A sleigh and an elephant. There's something strange. I'll pick one with plenty of power and size. A blue one with plenty of fun in his eyes. And then, just to give him a little more tone, have a Raja with rubies perched high on a throne. Say, that makes a story that no one can beat when I say that I saw it on Mulberry Street. But now I don't know. It still doesn't seem right. An elephant pulling a thing that's so light would whip it around in the air like a kite, but would look simply grand with a great big brass band. A band that's so good should have someone to hear it, but it's going so fast that it's hard to keep near it. I'll put on a trailer. I know they won't mind if a man sits and listens while hitched on behind. But now, is it fair? Is it fair what I've done? I'll bet those wagons weigh more than a ton. That's really too heavy a load for one beast. I'll give him some helpers. He needs 2 at least. But now, what worries me is this. Mulberry Street runs into bliss. Unless there's something I can fix up, there'll be an awful traffic mix-up. It takes police to do the trick, to guide them through where traffic's thick. It takes police to do the trick. They'll never crash now. They'll race at top speed, with Sergeant Mulvaney himself in the lead. The mayor is there, and he thinks it's grand, and he raises his hat as they dash by the stand. The mayor is there, and the aldermen too, all waving big banners of red, white and blue. And that is a story that no one can beat when I say that I saw it on Mulberry Street. With a roar of its motor, an aeroplane appears and dumps out confetti while everyone cheers. And that makes a story that's really not bad. But it still could be better. Suppose that I add a Chinese man who eats with sticks, a big magician doing tricks, a 10-foot beard that needs a comb. No time for more, I'm almost home. I swung round the corner and dashed through the gate. I ran up the stairs and I felt simply great, for I had a story that no one could beat, and to think that I saw it on Mulberry Street. But Dad said quite calmly, "Just draw up your stool and tell me the sights on the way home from school." There was just so much to tell, I just couldn't begin. Dad looked at me sharply and pulled at his chin. He frowned at me sternly from there in his seat. Was there nothing to look at, no people to greet? Did nothing excite you or make your heart beat? "Nothing," I said, growing red as a beet, "but a plain horse and wagon on Mulberry Street." It all started in Springfield. Ted Geisel grew up at 74 Fairfield Street in Springfield, Massachusetts. Shown above in a contemporary photo. It was his home from age 4 until he left for Dartmouth College during his childhood. Horse-drawn carriages and wagons like those in the vintage postcard below were ubiquitous. He surely saw them on Mulberry Street. Yes, there really is a Mulberry Street in Springfield, but it doesn't cross Bliss, and it never saw the zany wagons pictured in Dr. Seuss's first children's book. This is Ted at his drawing board with a cat in the hat. This sculpture by Ted's stepdaughter, Lark Diamond Case, is the centerpiece of the Dr. Seuss National Memorial Sculpture Garden at the Quadrangle in Springfield, Massachusetts. Now we will meet Marco again as he sits by mcelligot's pool. mcelligot's Pool, originally published in 1947 by Dr. Seuss, also known as Theodor Geisel. "Young man," laughed the farmer, "you're sort of a fool. You'll never catch fish in mcelligot's pool. The pool is too small, and you might as well know it. When people have junk, here's the place that they'll throw it. You might catch a boot, or you might catch a can. But listen, young man, if you sat 50 years with your worms and your wishes, you'd grow a long beard long before you'd catch fishes." Answered Marco. "It may be you're right. I've been here 3 hours without one single bite. There might be no fish, but again, well, there might. 'Cause you never can tell what goes on down below. This pool might be bigger than you or I know. This might be a pool like I've read of in books, connected to one of those underground brooks. An underground river that starts here and flows right under the pasture. And then, well, who knows? It might go along down where no one can see, right under State Highway 203. Right under the wagons, right under the tows, of Mrs. Umbroso, who's hanging out clothes. It might keep on flowing, perhaps, who can tell, right under the people in Sneeden's hotel, right under the grass where they're playing croquet, then under the mountains and far, far away. This might be a river, now mightn't it be, connecting mcelligot's pool with the sea? Then maybe some fish might be swimming toward me. If such a thing could be, they certainly would be. Some very smart fellow might point out the way to the place where I'm fishing, and that's why I say, if I wait long enough, if I'm patient and cool, who knows what I'll catch in mcelligot's pool. I might catch a thin fish, I might catch a stout fish, I might catch a short fish, or a long, long drawn out fish. Any kind, any shape, any colour or size. I might catch some fish that would open your eyes. I won't be surprised if a dogfish appears, complete with a collar and long floppy ears, woofing along, and perhaps he might chase a whole lot of catfish right straight to this place. I might catch a fish with a pinwheel tail. I might catch a fish who has fins like a sail. I might catch some young fish, some high-jumping friskers. I might catch an old one with long flowing whiskers. I might catch a fish with a long curly nose. I might catch a fish like a rooster that crows. I might catch a fish with a checkerboard belly, or even a fish made of strawberry jelly. I might catch a seahorse, now mightn't I now? I might catch a fish who is partly a cow. Some fish from the tropics, all sunburned and hot, might decide to swim up, or they might they not, racing up north for a chance to get cool, full steam ahead for mcelligot's pool. Some Eskimo fish from Hudson Bay might decide to swim down, might be headed my way. It's a pretty long trip, but they might, and they may. I might catch an eel. Well, I might, it depends. A long twisting eel with a lot of strange bends, and oddly enough, with a head on both ends. One doesn't catch this kind of fish as a rule, but the chances are fine in mcelligot's pool. I might catch a fish with a terrible grouch, or an Australian fish with a kangaroo's pouch. Who wants to catch small ones like mackerel or trout? Say, I'll catch a sawfish with such a long snout that he needs an assistant to help him about. If I wait long enough, if I'm patient and cool, who knows what I'll catch in mcelligot's pool? Some roughneck old lobster, all gristle and muscle, might grab at my bait. Then would I have a tussle. To land one so tough might take 2 or 3 hours, but the next might be easy, the kind that likes flowers. I might catch some sort of fast-moving bloke who zips through the waves with an overarm stroke. I might, and I may, and that's really no joke. A fish even faster, a fish, if you please, who slides down the sides of strange islands on skis. He might ski on over and pay me a visit. That's not impossible, really, now is it? Some circus fish from an acrobat school, might stage a big show in mcelligot's pool. Or I might catch a fish from a stranger place yet, from the world's highest river in far-off Tibet, where the falls are so steep that it's dangerous to ride 'em. So the fish put up chutes and they float down beside them. From the world's deepest ocean, from way down below, from down in the mud where the deep divers go. From down in the mire and the muck and the murk, I might catch some fish who are all going glurk. Whales, I'll catch whales, all spouting their spouts, and all thrashing their tails. I'll catch 50 whales, then I'll stop for the day, 'cause there's nothing that's bigger than whales, so they say. Still, of course, it might be that there is something bigger, some sort of a kind of a thingamajigger. A fish that's so big, if you know what I mean, that it makes a whale look like a tiny sardine. Oh, the sea is so full of a number of fish. If a fellow is patient, he might get his wish. And that's why I think that I'm not such a fool when I sit here and fish in mcelligot's pool. More than a decade before Ted Geisel dreamed up the fabulous fishy world of mcelligot's pool, his aquatic mutations were happily selling SA Marine motor oil. Ted's ads and the booklet Secrets of the Deep were such a hit. Admiral-in-Chief Dr. Seuss designed an amusing certificate of commission, and in later years, funny drinking glasses and an ashtray. He also produced a real showstopper, a 6-act comedy, Little Dramas of the Deep. Ted Geisel retired from his Navy in 1941. But SA Marine continued to enjoy the benefits of the fun he brought to its promotions.
Dr. Seuss's Sleep Book, originally published in 1962. The news just came in from the county of Keck that a very small bug by the name of Van Vleck was yawning so wide you can look down his neck. This may not seem very important, I know, but it is, so I'm bothering telling you so. A yawn is quite catching, you see, like a cough. It just takes one yawn to start other yawns off. Now the news has come in that some friends of Van Vleck's are yawning so wide you can look down their necks. At this moment, right now, under 7 more noses, great yawns are in blossom. They're blooming like roses. The yawn of that one little bug is still spreading. According to latest reports, it is heading across the wide fields, through the sleepy night air, across the whole country, toward every which where. And people are gradually starting to say, I feel rather drowsy. I've had quite a day. Creatures are starting to think about rest. 2 biffa-bound birds are now building their nest. They do it each night, And quite often I wonder how they do this big job without making a blunder. And that is their problem, not yours and not mine. The point is, they're going to bed, and that's fine. Sleep thoughts are spreading throughout the whole land. The time for night brushing of teeth is at hand. Up at Hockenberry Falls, where the great river rushes and crashes down crags in great gurgling gushes, the Hockenberry sisters are using their brushes. Those falls are just grand for toothbrushing beneath, if you happen to be up that way with your teeth. The news just came in from the castle of Krupp that the lights are all out and the drawbridge is up. And the old drawbridge drawer is just said with a yawn, "My drawbridge is drawn, and it's going to stay drawn till the milkman delivers the milk about dawn. It's going to bed now, so nobody better come round with a special delivery letter." The number of sleepers is steadily growing. Bed is where more and more people are going. In Culpeper Springs, in the Stilt Walkers' Hall, the Stilt Walkers' stilts are all stacked up on the wall. The Stilt Walker walkers have called it a day. They're all tuckered out and they're snoozing away. This is very big news. It's important to know, and that's why I'm bothering telling you so. Way out in the west, in the town of Merced, the Hinklehorn Honking Club just went to bed. Every horn has been quietly hung on a hook for the night in its own private Hinklehorn nook. All this long happy day they've been honking about, and the Hinklehorn honkers have honked themselves out. But they'll wake up quite fresh in the morning, and then they'll start right in Hinklehorn honking again. Everywhere creatures are falling asleep. The collapsible frink just collapsed in a heap, and by adding the frink to the others before, I'm able to give you the Who's Asleep score. Right now, 40,404 creatures are happily, deeply in slumber. I'll think you agree, that's a whopping fine number. Counting up sleepers, just how do we do it? Really quite simple. There's nothing much to it. We find out how many, we learn the amount by an audio tally-o count. On a mountain halfway between Reno and Rome, we have a machine in a plexiglass dome, which listens and looks into everyone's home, and whenever it sees a new sleeper go flop, it jiggles and lets a new biggle ball drop. Our chap counts these balls as they plop in a cup, and that's how we know who is down and who's up. Do you talk in your sleep? It's a wonderful sport, and I have some news of this sport to report. The world champion sleep talkers Joe and Mo Red Zoff have just gone to sleep, and they're talking their heads off. For 55 years now, each chattering brother has babbled and gabbled all night to the other. They've talked about laws, they've talked about gauze, they've talked about paws, they've talked about flaws, they've talked quite a lot about old Santa Claus. And the reason I'm telling you this is because you should take up this sport. It's just fine for the jaws. Do you walk in your sleep? I just had a report of some interesting news of this popular sport. Near Finnegan Fen, there's a sleepwalking group, which not only walks, but it walks a la hoop. Every night they go miles. Why they walk to such length? They have to keep eating to keep up their strength. So every so often one puts down his hoop, stops hooping and does some quick snooping for soup. That's why they are known as the Hoop Soup Snoop Group. Sleepwalking too are the curious crandles, who sleepwalk on hills with assorted-sized candles. The crandles walk nightly in a slumbering peace, in spite of slight burns from the hot dripping grease. The crandles wear candles because they walk far, and if they wake up, want to see where they are. Now the news has arrived from the Valley of Vale that a Chippendale mup has just spitten his tail, which he does every night before shutting his eyes. Such nipping sounds silly, but really it's wise. He has no alarm clock, so this is the way. He makes sure that he'll wake at the right time of day. His tail is so long he won't feel any pain till the nip makes the trip and gets up to his brain. In exactly 8 hours, the Chippendale mup will at last feel the bite and yell ouch and wake up. And Mr. and Mrs. J. Carmichael Crocs have just gone to bed near the town of Fort Knox. And they, by the way, have the finest of clocks. I'm not at all sure that I quite understand just how the thing works with that one extra hand. But I do know this clock does one very slick trick. It doesn't tick-tock. How it goes is tock-tick. So with ticks in its tocker and tocks in its ticker, it saves lots of time and the sleepers sleep quicker. What a fine night for sleeping, from all that I hear. It's the best night for sleeping in many a year. They're even asleep in the Zweiback Hotel, and people don't usually sleep there too well. Their beds are like rocks, and as everyone knows, the sheets are too short. They won't cover your toes. So, if people are actually sleeping in there, it's a great night for sleeping. It must be the air. It's a great night for snores. I just had a report of some boys who are tops in this musical sport. The snortiest snorers in all of our fair land are Snorter McPhail and his Snorer Snort Band. This band can snore Dixie and Old Swanee River, so loud it would make 40 elephants shiver. The loudest of all of the boys is McPhail. He snores with his head in a 3-gallon pail. So they snore in a cave 20 miles out of town. If they snored closer in, they would snore the town down. Do you know who's asleep? Out in Funa Laguna? 2 very nice Funa Laguna baboona. We've added them into our who's asleep count, which has grown to a really amazing amount. Exactly 8,808 creatures are sleeping now. Isn't that great? A Jed is in bed, and the bed of a Jed is the softest of beds in the world, it is said. He makes it from pom-poms, who grows on his head, and he's sleeping right now on the softest of fluff, completely exhausted from growing the stuff. The news has come in from the district of Doft that 2 oft are asleep, and they're sleeping aloft. And how are they able to sleep off the ground? I'll tell you. I weighed one last week and I found that an oft is so light he weighs -1 pound. A moose is asleep. He is dreaming of moose drinks. A goose is asleep. He is dreaming of goose drinks. That's well and good when a moose dreams of moose juice, and nothing goes wrong when a goose dreams of goose juice. But it isn't too good when a moose and a goose start dreaming they're drinking the other one's juice. Moose juice, not goose juice, is juice for a moose, and goose juice, not moose juice, is juice for a goose. So when goose gets a mouthful of juices of mooses, and moose gets a mouthful of juices of gooses, they always fall out of their beds screaming screams. So, I'm warning you now, never drink in your dreams. Speaking of dreaming, I think you should note that the Bumble Tub Club is now dreaming afloat. Every night they go dreaming down Bumbletub Creek, except for one night every third or fourth week, when they stop for repairs 'cause their bumbletubs leak. But tonight they're afloat.
But tonight they'll float, full of dreams, full of bliss. And that's why I'm bothering telling you this. At the fork of a road, in the vale of Avode, 5 foot-weary salesmen have laid down their load. All day they've raced round in the heat at top speeds, unsuccessfully trying to sell Ziffa seeds, which nobody wants because nobody needs. Tomorrow will come, they'll go back to their chore. They'll start on their road, zizzazoofing once more. But tonight, they've forgotten their feet are so sore, and that's what the wonderful nighttime is for. Everywhere creatures have shut off their voices. They've all gone to bed in the beds of their choices. They're sleeping in bushes. They're sleeping in crannies, some on their stomachs and some on their fannies. They're peacefully sleeping in comfortable holes, some even on soft-tufted barber shop poles. The number of sleepers is now past the millions. The number of sleepers is now in the billions. They're sleeping on steps and on strings and on floors, in mailboxes, ships and keyholes of doors. Every worm on a fishhook is safe for the night. Every fish in the sea is too sleepy to bite. Every whale in the ocean has turned off his spout. Every light between here and far feudal is out. And now, adding things up, we are way beyond billions. Our who's asleep score is now up in the zillions. 99 zillion, 9 trillion and 2. Creatures are sleeping. So, how about you? When you put out your light, then the number will be 99 zillion, 9 trillion and 3. Good night.